recession proof real estate. Tonight is all about deal or no deal, right? Well, this is where we review deals and determine whether or not the deals that we're looking at is a deal or not a deal. This is all here for you to sharpen your skills analyzing deals as a real estate investor. So, normally I'd be doing this on my Zoom, okay, and on my computer, but unfortunately I got locked out of my Zoom, y'all. So I'm literally like live right now on my phone. I'm trying to figure out if I can share my screen on YouTube, so that way I can be able to actually like walk you through reviewing a real deal utilizing the Zillow app like I normally do. I hope you could bear with me tonight as I figure this thing out because it's the first time I'm doing it like this. As we get started, though, I want to go ahead and just say welcome, welcome, welcome. Type in the chat where you're from, where are you tuning in from. Type in the chat as well. You know, are you a new investor? Have you been investing before? Are you a wholesaler? What is it that you're doing in the real estate industry? Go ahead and type that in the chat so we can kind of get to know each other a little bit here. I'm going to figure out how we can do this, considering that I am not on my Zoom. So what I'm thinking I'll probably do is I'll probably end up just chatting with you like this, and then I have my Zillow here on my computer right here that I can then turn the camera around and kind of show you some of the comps I'm looking at. So it's going to be a little bit different than what we're used to. So I hope that it's not too big of a problem for you tonight, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I do this for you rather than to not do it, right? I want to make sure that we are having deal or no deal rather than to not have it at all right? So with that being said, I hope that you've had a very productive week this past week. Last week, we went over a deal that was very interesting. And this week, I've got another deal here that I'm currently looking at, a property that we are getting ready to put place under contract. So just wanted to review this deal with you. I think it's a great opportunity to really show you, how to really like look at these numbers. And so as we start off every Thursday of Deal or No Deal, I want to make sure that I reiterate again, what is a motivated seller? Because a motivated seller is the most important thing in your business. Whether you are a real estate agent, whether you are an investor buyer, whether you are a wholesaler, a motivated seller is literally the lifeblood of your business. So what is a motivated seller exactly? Because I do not review any deals. I don't do comps. I don't do numbers. I don't do a thing on any deal opportunity that is not tied to a motivated seller. So what exactly is a motivated seller? A motivated seller is anyone who needs to sell and has made the decision to sell right now, meaning that they're in a situation that practically practically kind of forces them to sell, right? They're not really being forced to sell, but they've made a decision to sell right now. For instance, someone who's going through foreclosure, they can't make their payments, they need to sell unless they can figure out a way to keep the house, right? Somebody who is in tax delinquent, who's getting ready to lose the house to a tax sale, they need to sell unless they can figure out a way to come up with the money. Somebody who is a landlord and they've just had to evict tenants and they've realized that landlording is not for them, they need to sell unless they're going to continue to be a landlord. Does that make sense? So those are just some very basic examples of that, because there's a ton of different types of motivated sellers. Motivated sellers are people who have problems where selling their property is the solution to that. So they're motivated and they have decided to do it, meaning that they're not trying to think about it or wondering if that's what they want to do. They know that's what they want to do and they're going to do it, right? So that is what a motivated seller is. As long as they're motivated, then you know that it's worth it for you to take the time that it takes to actually review the deal and then come up with the numbers and all of that stuff, right? So you never want to waste your time. So I always like to go over that in the beginning of every single class, right? So I'm going to pull up my house here that we're going to be working on. I'm pulling it up on my computer here. Here we go, Merritt Boulevard, and we're going to review this deal together, okay? And I want to show you how I do my numbers, so that way you can do the same thing too. All right, so give me a second here. I'm gonna pull this house up here for us so we can go through this. So bear with me for just, alrighty, all right. We're still live, cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to turn my camera around, right? So you're no longer gonna see me. You're gonna be looking at my computer screen, okay? And so I'm gonna walk you through this, pointing at the computer screen so that you can see what I'm doing. And again, I apologize for the fact that we got to do it this way tonight, but unfortunately, I got locked out of my Zoom account, so I'm unable to access it and do it how I normally do it, y'all. So bear with me tonight. All right, so with that being said, let's rock and roll here. Let me grab my camera, okay? And hopefully this is not zoomed in too much. Maybe you can see this. I want to make sure you can see this just fine. Okay, cool. Can you see this just fine? Give me a thumbs up. Type something in the chat if you can see this just fine. I'm literally going to be doing this with one hand, so that way you can see everything. All right, so this is our property right here. All right, so we're working with a 3-1, all right, 1,700 square foot property. Okay, this house is sitting on a half-acre lot. It was built in 1947. All right, so what's the first thing we're going to do? If you have been here for previous Deal or No Deal lives, then you already know what the first thing we got to do is we got to look at, the details of this property. So we're getting our facts straight. Okay, so we're going to come down here. I like to look at the price history just for my own knowledge. Okay, just trying to see what they paid for the house. Okay, I don't see anything there. Cool. All right, so this is all the information I need, right? So when we want to look up comps, the whole point of this right now is to determine whether or not this property is a deal. Now, just to give you some background knowledge, I have an opportunity to pick this property up for $180,000, right? So what we've got to do now is we got to look at comps and determine if $180,000 is a reasonable price for this property. This property needs a full-on renovation, right? So it's a complete full rehab. I'm gonna pull up a calculator here real quick too, because we're gonna need to do some calculations as well. All right, so this house is gonna need a complete full rehab, right? Just so you know. All right, so now that's gonna run us about $45 a square foot. This house here is 1,700 square feet. I'm gonna take $45, time that by 1707. Let me do that again. 45 times 1707. All right. So that's totally incorrect. 45 times 1707. All right, there we go. So this is about how much it's going to cost us right there to renovate this home. So I like to round this up to the nearest $5,000 just so that I can be conservative. So I'm going to run my rehab cost at $80,000 full rehab. All right, so now that we've got that information, let's look at some comps. We're looking at 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 1,700 square feet, built in 1947 on a half-acre lot. Great. All right, so let's take a look here. This is the area that we're working in. I'm gonna pull this house up one more time here. I want to get a good look at the neighborhood. So let me see. It should zoom me into the neighborhood. It's not doing it, so I'll have to manually do it myself. So Merritt Street is down here. Okay, let's go to the map. Let's find Merritt Street. It's around here somewhere. It's in this area right here. Okay, so it's in this pocket right here. So what we're gonna do is we're going to draw a parameter around this. Let's remove the boundary first. I'm gonna draw a parameter around this entire area of Altamont Springs. I know my market very well. I know that this whole area right here is pretty similar when it comes to neighborhoods and all of that, right? So I'm going to be looking at homes most likely that are very, very similar to each other. All right, so now after I got that, now I need to look at sold properties. Okay, we won't filter out price. We're going to go to beds and baths. This is a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom home, exact match. Okay, home type, only houses. All right, and then we're going to look at the square footage, right? Square footage was 1,700. So look up from 2,000 square feet to 1,500 square feet. Y'all can see that? All right, lot size is about half an acre. So we're going to look up to half an acre, between a quarter acre to half an acre. All right. It was built in 1947. So I'm going to look up 20 years above. So that's 1967. I'll take it to 1969. All right. And I do not put a minimum because it doesn't matter. All right. So now let's scroll down some more. 55 and up. We don't want to see 55 and up. It's not in the 55 and up community. And the last thing we want to filter out is the time frame. So 90 days. All right, so we got 3 comps in the last 90 days. These are really solid comps here, these 3. Okay, so super recent. Let's see what we got. We've got these 3 houses here. One for 463, another one for 425, another one for 440. So what we want to do, okay, we want to do a couple of things here. The first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples, right? So our house is a 3-1 at 1,700 square feet. This is a 3-2, a 3-2, and a 3-2. So my question to you is, considering that our house is a 3-1, okay, and what we see here are 3-2s, what is the likelihood, okay, what is the likelihood that our house will sell for these prices right here? What's the likelihood of that? Very high or very low? Very high or very low? What's the likelihood of that? Right? It's very low. Low likelihood. These are 3-2s. Okay, so, but it gives us an idea though. It's still good comps to look at because it does give us some sort of an idea. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna look down and I'm gonna go out 6 months. And the reason why is I just wanna see if I can find anything that is actually a 3-1. 3-2, 3-2, 3-2, 3-2. Everything is a 3-2. All right, so here's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna have to go with the 3-2s as my comps, but I need to do it conservatively. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to take a look first and make sure that my house is not a pool house. So let's take a look at my house again. It's my house here, and I'm pretty sure it's not a pool house, but I want to verify that. Go to the map. It's so much easier to do this on the phone, y'all. So much easier to do this with the Zillow app on your phone. Okay, let me try this again. Come on. Street. Ronald Reagan. It's on the other side of Ronald Reagan. So it's actually right here. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at this one more time. This is so much easier. So I really appreciate you all bearing with me tonight, given Zoom, because it's so much easier to do this the other way. All right, let's see. This is right next to, okay, I know exactly where it's at. Right here. It's right here somewhere. Where is it? I think this is it. 1705, 1707. I think this is it right here. Yep. So this is our house right here. Okay. So what I want to look for is to see if there's a pool. There's no pool on this house, right? And so let's take a look at comps. I'm gonna draw another boundary here. I need to redraw it. Take a look at comps. That's all in this area right here. Apply. All right. Cool. So now what am I looking for? I'm gonna look at these houses and I want to look at the ones that are not pool homes. Okay? Not pool homes. That's key. So let's take a look at the property details, which is down here with pool, right? So this is definitely not what we're looking for. So let's look at the next property. Let's go down here. Here's our description. Okay, it doesn't mention a pool, so this must not be a pool home. It would definitely mention a pool. Oh, pool area, there it is right there. Yep, another pool house. So our first pool house sold for 463. Our second pool house sold for 425. Okay, and then we've got this house down here at 440. Let's see if this is a pool house too. Brand new roof. Oh, this is nice. Fully renovated. Water heater, flooring, fresh paint, recent upgrades. House is located. Open floor plans, granite countertops. All the bathrooms have been upgraded. Outside porch area was newly screened so you can enjoy Florida weather. No pool. So this is the first home with no pool. That's a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, right? And it's fully renovated. So this is definitely one of those that we definitely want to look at. This house here sold for 440 back in October. So let's see how this house actually performed, right? So they bought it for 272 on 620, listed it for sale on 828 for 458. Okay, the market was not rewarding that price initially, so they dropped it. They dropped it again. All right, and then finally, once they got down to 449, they went pending and sold it at 440. So the market rewarded this house at $440,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, fully renovated home with no pool. Great. So that's a solid comp. We're gonna keep that. So let's look at the next comp that we got here. 85 grand is crazy. So let's skip that one. We got one here for 400. I don't see that here. Oh, it's up there. That's why. So let's take a look at this one here for 400. All right. So this Palm Springs, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,600 square feet. So let's look at the description again. Let's look at the description and let's see what we can find about this property. Here we go. Here's a description right here. So not much information. So this might have been sold off market. Yeah, it looks like it was public record. It was sold off market. So this is not we can't really use that, unfortunately. So let's look at the next one. We got this one here for 320. 320. Looks like it might be the same deal. Barely any information about it. So let's look at the off-market, sales records. Where is it? Here we go. Public record, sold off market. So we can't really use that either. So the reason why I don't use these comps is because what I'm looking for right now is I'm looking to determine how much the ARV is. That's what I'm looking to do right now. I need to find out how much is the ARV for this house. And the best way to determine ARV is to always use comps that is listed on the market, okay? Because the market represents top dollar sales. Now, we can utilize public record information as a way to understand what the value for the house could be sold as far as it being sold like off market, right, or as cash, or however it was sold. We don't know if this was a cash sale, but we do know that it was sold off market. Does that make sense? So off market properties are going to sell for less off market than they will on the market. So that's why I like to look at on the market for ARV, but we'll also just pencil down these information like this so we can utilize it in our evaluation. All right, so 320, that was it. Let's see. So 440, this was our most solid comp here. Our most solid comp is this one. So here's what we're gonna do. We've got a couple of comps here. We've got 2 off-market comps, and then we've got this one that's sold on the market, right? So I'm gonna come to my calculator here, and I'm gonna get the price per square foot for every house. 440 divided by 1760 is 250 a square foot. So this house sold for 250 a square foot. All right. This next house, actually, I'll do it this way. This next house here, the one that sold for 320, sold at 320 divided by 1603. This one sold at 199, about $200 a square foot. So we got 250, then we got 200. And then our last one here for 400. Okay, divide that by 1671. This one here sold at 239 square feet. square foot, right? So 239 per square foot plus 250 per square foot plus 200 per square foot. Divide that by 3, we get an average square feet price per square foot of 229,000. So I'm going to leverage this here. This is 229. Multiply that by my house, which is 17. Let's pull it up again. 1707. Okay. 1707. We got $390,000. Now, here's my question to you. Do you feel like an ARV of 390 is reasonable considering the comps that we actually had that we can actually look at and use? Okay? So considering the comps that we could actually look at and use, do you feel like that was reasonable? All right? That's what we need to answer. The answer to that, in my honest opinion, is that it is. I feel like 390 is very reasonable. I feel like it's much lower than what the market's willing to pay. And the market has shown us that the market's willing to pay a whole lot more than $390,000 for a fully renovated home. As a matter of fact, for the one house that we were actually able to use as a comp, that house sold for a great price of $440,000. However, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. We have a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. So obviously, we're not going to get 440, right? We're going to get something beneath that, but I think 390 is absolutely reasonable. So now let's take a look here at our calculator again, because now that we got a very, very conservative ARV at 390, honestly, I'd be cool with 400K, to be honest with you. I'd bet it on 400K all day long too. But let's just say at 390, okay? $390,000. Now, what we need to do is we need to find out at what price we need to buy this house for it to be considered a deal. So then we can figure out whether or not this opportunity is really a deal or it's not a deal. All right, so 390,000. We said that the price per square foot, or the repair cost per square foot is $45 square feet times 1707 square feet gives us 76,000. We're going to round up to 80,000. So we'll take our 390 ARV, subtract 30% from that, okay? Percent. And then subtract $80,000 at 193 minus 10 grand. I got 183. So is this a deal or is it not a deal? Is this a deal or not a deal, y'all? This property is coming to me at $180,000. Is this a deal or not a deal? Type it in the chats. Is this a deal or not a deal? Okay? So I'm going to run the numbers again, and I want you to let me know if this is a deal or not a deal. So at a very conservative ARV of 390,000, okay? 390K minus 30%. All right, that's 273 minus our repair cost estimate of $80,000, and then our assignment fee of $10,000. We got 183. Is this a deal or not a deal? It's a deal. Yes, this is actually a great deal. They're offering this deal to me at $180,000. This is actually a great deal. And remember, we're doing this very, very conservative. Even if, I want to show you why this is a deal, right? Because as a wholesaler, our job is to pass on the savings to the investor who's going to take the risk and make the money, right? So I want to show you why this is a deal. At $390,000, if I'm going to break down the numbers like very, very specific, right? So 390 minus 10% for resale fees, minus $80,000 in rehab costs. Okay, I'm going to sell this deal for $10,000 more than what I got it. So I'm going to sell it for $190, right? So they're going to end up paying about $195,000 after, closing fees and all of that. They're going to make $76,000 on this. So the question now is, if they're buying it for $195 and they put in $80,000, that's $275. So they invested $275,000, but they made $76,000. So they made $76,000 off of investing 275,000 times 100. That's a 27% return on investment. Is this a great deal or not? That's almost a 30% return on investment. And mind you, that's selling the property at 390,000. So now imagine if they sold this thing for more. I feel like it could probably sell for 400. Okay? They're going to make an extra 10 grand on that. Even if we did these numbers like super skinny, right? So let's say 400,000 minus 25%. So meaning that they're going to get less. All right? Minus 80,000 minus 10,000. Even if I picked up this deal for 210 and they paid 220, right? I just want to show you this. If they resold it at 400,000, 10%, 360 minus the 80,000 they've got to put in, that's 280, and they paid 220 for it. So they're making a whole lot less. They're making 60,000, right? But check this out. 220 plus the 80 they put in, divide that by 300, that's 300. So take 60,000. I think it's going to be like 18% or something like that. Let's see. 60,000, divide that by 300. 20%. They made 20% return on investment even if they buy this deal from me at $220,000. The investor buyer still can potentially make 20% return on their investment. So is this a deal or not a deal? It's an absolute deal, because what this means is that I can pick this up for 180 and potentially even sell it for over $200,000. My goal here, though, is to sell it and make 190. So with that being said, y'all, it is absolutely a deal. All right. So with that being said, my question for you is, what did you learn? Did you learn something from this tonight? Because we've done this week after week after week after week, and the deals that I've been reviewing have not really been deals, right? They're deals that we had to go negotiate and all of that. But tonight we have one that we reviewed together, and at the current price they're asking, it's already a deal. So I hope that you learned something. If you did learn something from this, please comment in the comment section what you learned. If you have a deal that you'd like for me to review during one of our live Deal or No Deals each week on Thursday nights, all you've got to do is go to click the link in my YouTube page, my YouTube channel. Go to my YouTube channel, click the link, okay? And you can schedule a call with me, all right? Or you can simply reach out to me on Instagram and let me know that you'd like to have one of your deal reviews reviewed, and I will consider it to review it right here live on Deal or No Deal. All right, so I'm Luke Medeiros. I hope that this has been absolutely valuable for you. I hope that you learned something from this. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next week on Deal or No Deal Live. Have a wonderful night.